Hello, hello, beautiful beings, beautiful souls. Welcome to Soul Good. I'm Amber Marie, and this is our collective 2023 Tarotscope. If you're curious about the decks that I'm using today, you can find a list of them in the description box below. You can also find links to my social media accounts, as well as links to information on personal readings and the Soul Good membership channel on Telegram. There will also be some timestamps in the description box below for you to check out if you feel called to do so. Please do remember as we go through this reading that this is a collective reading, not a personal reading, so please only take what resonates with you and leave the rest. All right, let's jump in and see what we've got going on for us this year. We're going to be looking at the year in quarters, right? So we're going to look at the first quarter, January through March, the second quarter, April through June, the third quarter, July through September, and the fourth quarter, October through December, taking a look at the theme, challenge, and blessing for each of those quarters, okay? So let's jump into the first quarter. Tell us, please, what is the theme for the first quarter, January through March of 2023? Father, Mother, Life, Universe, Spirits, Guides, Angels, our cosmic team, our ancestors, our higher selves. What do we need to know? Thank you. Okay. So let's take a look here at the theme first. We do have out here the never-ending story. This is the number 37. So what I feel is happening for us in the first quarter of 2023 is I feel like we're closing out some cycles, getting some closure on some stories that we've been telling ourselves over and over and over again. For some, this is going to look like those victim types of stories, right? I can't, I'm not enough, I don't have enough, I don't know how will I ever be able to, those sorts of things, all of those limiting beliefs. I feel like there's something that we experienced in the past that we may be finding closure on in the first quarter of the month. And I feel like this is going to be a collective theme taking place, right? It's going to look, I feel, differently for everyone, right? Whatever the theme the story is, I feel is going to look different, right? But I feel like those things are coming up nonetheless, right? Whether you choose to gain that closure or find that closure is obviously completely up to you. But I do feel like it's being stirred within the collective, right? This is the number 37, and I will be mentioning the numbers on these cards for those that it may be important to, right? Sometimes it has nothing to do with me and everything to do with you. So just keep that in mind as we move through. We also have here community. This is the number 8. And what I feel here, okay, so what's interesting is the theme of the first quarter of this month could have something to do with the story you've been telling yourself around not fitting in, around not being able to find your community, about feeling different than everybody else. And here's the thing, sweets, it's so absolutely amazing and incredible that you are who you are, that you are as unique as you are, and you are meant to be that way. However, you will, right? Should you begin to accept yourself, find that tribe, that community that accepts you for exactly who you are, right? You will not need to change anything, do anything to impress them, to be seen, held, heard by them. It will just be very natural, right? They will be in alignment with you. So this could come to focus, right, during the first quarter of the year, right, January through March. And it's really, really fascinating because I do feel that there is another element to this of perhaps wanting to isolate, right? Maybe you have been in isolation, closing out 2022, maybe the final quarter or all of 2022. Isolation has been something that's been a common or reoccurring theme the past couple of years, right? So at least in my experience as a reader, so it wouldn't be a surprise. And maybe the theme of the first quarter of the year is you coming out of that, right? Finding yourself being more comfortable, being in community, being out amongst your peers, out in the world, right? It's very interesting. But I feel like, this could show up like either way, right? Or it could be a combination of the two. Okay. Let's get some tarot on that. Get some clarity, please, on what's taking place. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so it's really interesting here is that I don't ever do that, you guys. Like I would like never just grab them like this. It's so weird that I just did that, but I would read them the exact way they're coming out, which is fascinating because there is the Four of Wands here in the reverse, which would indicate again, feeling like we don't have that support, right? Again, feeling like we don't feel seen, like we don't belong, we don't have a home or a community to go to. So, yet again, these things are going to be showing up for us in the first quarter of the year. But what's really beautiful about this is we're getting a new beginning, which, like I said, we may be needing to find that closure, right? Maybe needing to let some things go and begin again, which is absolutely amazing because we also have that Eight of Swords, which also talks about what I was speaking on previously in regards to victim stories, the stories that we tell ourselves. And here's the thing, I feel like for some, this feeling of no support or not fitting in or not being able to establish a community where you feel like is your home or you feel heard and seen and held could simply just be that you've needed to tell yourself a new story, right? Like this new beginning could come from you simply realizing, coming to terms with the fact that you have been telling this to yourself, right? And it's interesting as well because we have that eight with a community there. Sorry about the reflection. Hopefully you can see it. And then we have the Eight of Swords. So you could be seeing repeating eights as a sign for you, right? That this is something that's taking place at the beginning of the year. But I definitely feel like there's this new beginning coming, right? With that closure or the letting go of the stories that we've been telling ourselves. So fascinating to me that we have that never ending story. And then the Eight of Swords, which represents that like self victimization or that imprisonment of self because we've told ourselves something. There's fear being released here, right? It's only in our heads that we are stuck, that we don't have everything we need, that we can't, that we're not, right? Like whatever the story is, it's only in our head. It's only the story that we're telling, right? So I feel like there's an opportunity here as we move through the first quarter of the year to really change this story, to create a new one and experience a new beginning, right? Leaving that thing behind and beginning again, finding community perhaps, right, for the first time in a long time, if ever. I think that's beautiful. All right, let's take a look at the challenge that we might face for the first quarter of the year. What challenge might we experience through the first quarter of the year, please? What challenge might we experience? Nice, clear message. Thank you. Beautiful. Let's get a tarot to clarify. Tell me more, please, about a challenge we might face through the first quarter of 2023. Thank you. All right. So it's already face up. I'm just going to leave it how it is. Oh, wow. We have Imagine here. So it's interesting that this is a challenge, right? Most people might look at this Imagine card and see optimism. It's very interesting to me. This is the number 20 for those that that might be important for. And with this Imagine card coming out here, interestingly, with it halved. Okay, so that's really fascinating. I always find it super fascinating when that happens. When I have a card come out and then it's half show up to clarify in whatever way, shape, or form. I always am. It's very curious to me when that happens. It always catches my eye. But with this Ten of Wands in reverse is interesting, right? Because it is about essentially being stressed, being burnt out. Like I'm over it. I'm been carrying these burdens. I've been trucking all this way, right? She's taken this very long path. Here, let me flip this over so you can see it in the upright. Right, she's trucked all this way. She's had a very long journey from the top of this mountain here down this hill, right? Carrying all of these things with her. And so it's interesting because I feel like there's an element here of the challenge being imagine what happens when you accomplish what you've set out to do, right? It's like imagine the possibilities. And I feel like it's that energy of like what's keeping you going, right? Or the motivation, right? It's like imagine how that finish line is going to feel. Imagine how that relief is going to feel, right? Oh, yes. Okay, thank you, Lord. I also am getting like imagine having the support you need, right? So here, let me, a better way to explain this would be, for example, right, we're talking about community and feeling supported and feeling seen and heard, right? And so with this 10 of Wands in the reverse, there's an energy of like being unwilling to delegate. And so some may fear um, kind of venturing back out into community. And I'm going to just say, from my own personal experience, I have said numerous times, like, I don't know how to be friends really from an awoken state because I've never made like brand new friends from this state. I mean, I have. Let me rephrase that. I have, but it's very few and far in between. So I'm learning, right? I'm not yet sure of myself and how to do that. So it's really interesting because for me, it's this energy of imagine what would happen if you weren't unwilling to seek community. Like, what, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you were willing to move past your stories, move past the challenge, and allow that community to take some of that support, or to rather provide some of that support that you need with all of the things you've been carrying, right? Because I feel like for many of you, there's this, it's interesting, it's like a buildup of information. This could be things that you've learned in regards to your own spiritual journey, perhaps about the collective, right? Whatever it is, I just feel like there's like this buildup of information that you've gained or had access to and have had no one to share it with, or very few people to share it with. And there's like this buildup taking place. It's, I don't know what, so it's almost like the burden almost feels energetic or spiritual versus physical, right? It feels to me like been like this, almost like this spiritual burden that's been being carried through an awakening process. And so it's like, imagine what would happen if you were able to delegate some of that burden to other people, if you were able to unload a bit of that to other people, right? So it's really interesting because I feel like there's almost this fear of, I don't know if I really want to venture out into the world. Like, I don't know if I want to be around people. I don't even know if I like people. Right? Like, I don't know if you guys have said this before or not, but I've kind of got this like it's too people-y out for me type of vibe, a lot of the time. That comes from being an empath, and it comes from, sometimes taking on too much and being overstimulated, right? So it's just interesting that it shows up that way in the form of a challenge, right? Um, I also feel like there's a challenge here of imagining that that how do I word imagining an experience without all of that burden. I feel like that's also very difficult for some to imagine as well, right? Because here's the thing, guys, I feel like some of you have never really had that support, like ever, right? I feel like it's been very few and far in between. And I would say that if this resonates with you, you'll know, because you could probably think right now of like two people that you like, that's the only people that have ever supported me. Like, and that would be as far as you could go. You know what I'm saying? Like, you would be able to definitely name on one hand, and probably none of them are your family, or maybe just one or two of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is one of those things where you just feel like you've never really had support, and you've always felt like you've had to carry the burden by yourself, and always felt like you didn't fit in, and always felt like there was never ever going to be help, right? And it's difficult to imagine that there could be people in this world, that there could be a source energy that would be supportive of you, right? Because I feel like for many of you, you haven't really had the opportunity to experience it. And even if you have, it's been fleeting, either because that party removed itself from your life or you ran from it. Okay? Let's take a look at a blessing for the first quarter. Tell us, please, about a blessing that we will experience for the first quarter of 2023, January through March, please. What do we need to know about a blessing? Thank you. Tell us more, please, about a blessing for the first. Okay, there they are. All right, so the first one we have here for blessing is clean it up. Right, so I feel like the blessing, this is the number 21, which is interesting because we go from 20 to 21. So that tells me that we're growing through the first quarter of the month, right? But with this clean it up energy, this is saying to me that the blessing that we're receiving with this card is the opportunity to clean it up. literally. Like, I do feel like this is in regard for some to your physical space, your car, your home, your room, especially, right? I just want to, I feel like I need to lovingly say something, okay? There are those who struggle, right, to stay on top of the overwhelm, to be able to balance all the things, right? And some people, it's like you get so overwhelmed that you don't know where to start to try to sort everything back out again. And there's this energy here of this blessing being like, if you don't know where to start like with putting away like one article of clothing from your room, or doing one dish or whatever. Start where you can, right? But there is the blessing here of being given an opportunity to clean things up, okay? Again, this is the number 21. This reduces to 3, which is about expansion and growth. And here's the thing about expansion and growth. You cannot expand and grow if you don't have room, right? So for example, and this is purely example and hypothetical. If you, for example, have a closet full of clothes, right? Maybe they fit you, maybe they don't. Who cares? But let's say you have a closet full of clothes. Where are you going to put new clothes if you go to the store and buy new ones? Certainly not anywhere you're going to take care of them or be able to take care of them, right? Because you don't have the capacity to be able to do that, right? So it's about making room for those things. Similarly, this is how energy works as well, right? When you carry trauma, when you carry stories, when you carry wounds, when you carry programming, you don't have room for other things to come in, right? So we have to clean up our space, both our physical space, our spiritual space, our mental space, our emotional space. And I want to lovingly say to you that clearing your emotional space can look like crying. It can look like anger and yelling. It can look like laughing, right? It can look very different for many, many different people, depending on who you are, your journey, where you're at, and what you've experienced. Okay? What else do we have? Higher power. Oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Right? Because we're talking about blessings here. And we have higher power. I'm reading both of these cards right now from the guidebook. I'm going to go ahead and dive into the clean it up. I'm going to read the prosperity messages because we are looking at blessings here, right? So that would be adding something to our life. So let me find in the book here the clean it up prosperity message. Okay. So again, think about how this might relate to what we've already discussed as far as the theme is concerned, those stories, closing, community, and how this may bless the first quarter of your year. Okay, so it says, simple things like opening your mail, paying bills, sorting out your timetable, making lists, and getting organized is what this symbol means when it comes to your work. Make time for yourself too. This is a sign you may be overburdened and overwhelmed. It's okay to say no. You'll prosper even more if you do. You guys, can you seriously? You cannot make this stuff up. I don't know if I've ever actually read that message for this card. I can't recall a time that I have. I could be wrong. Weirder things have happened. But, you know, I think it's absolutely incredible that it says here, this card is a sign that you may be overburdened and overwhelmed, because that is exactly what I was picking up here with this 10 of Wands. And it's what 10 of Wands means. It means being stressed, overburdened, overwhelmed, like needing to put some stuff down, right? So it's possible that you feel that way throughout the first quarter of the year, but you know, the blessing is you have the opportunity to clean it up. And here's how I feel like this is coming through from that higher power, right? For some, it's that higher power literally helping you to clean up your space, right? Like literally taking some of those burdens from you, relieving you of some of those burdens, right? Let me just jump to the prosperity message for this card. We'll read it. Okay, so it says here, sometimes your work just flows through you. Ideas come rushing in, and inspiration bubbles up from a wellspring you didn't even know you could access. When you enter agreements, begin projects, and negotiate deals with Spirit as your partner, you will always succeed. Let your higher power lead. The synchronicities and intuitive nudges you feel will help you to see which way you are being pointed, giving you confidence to move forward in the right direction. Don't forget to give credit where credit is due. You wouldn't be a success without Spirit's guidance. Humility will serve you well when this symbol appears, right? So it's interesting because it's like, I seriously, I feel like God is like coming in. I call it God. Maybe you don't. It's just what I say. Okay. You don't have to call it the same thing. Maybe you call it source, universe, right? But I feel like God is saying here, like, give me some of your burdens, right? And give that credit where credit is due. Like, know that if you trust, like, that's the blessing, right? Trusting your intuition, trusting that higher power is going to lead you out of that overwhelm, out of that stress, right? By, I feel, taking some of that burden off of your shoulders, right? But again, it's like, give credit where credit's due. When you come out the other side, know where that guidance came from. Know who led you, or what rather led you to that space, right? What helped you to overcome that story, that situation, right? What helped you to clean up your space, right? Give that credit where it's due. We also have the Emperor in the reverse, which is interesting because this is the number 4. Okay, so we're looking at blessings. I feel like part of this burden, part of this overwhelm comes from, like I was saying, the kind of power and domination that those stories have over your life, right? How they can prevent you from being involved in community, how they can prevent you from a new beginning, right? How they can hold you back because you believe something. And so I feel like there's that help coming, right? In the form of helping us to essentially like find our way through that, right? To find our way through those things that are holding that power over us. And when you're in a state of overwhelm, it's literally like, because these things have more power over you than you do, right? So I just feel like it's helping us to relieve that. Okay. We also have here the 2 of Swords. Yeah, there's going to be some difficult decisions that need to be made, right? And again, clean it up. What do you need to be moving away from? What do you need to be putting your energy into? What can you hand over to Source, right? What is your intuition telling you to do, right? Those difficult decisions are going to be the ones that lead us to success. Those are going to be the ones that help us to find our path, our purpose, right? To help us feel more complete, more full. Woo, yes, we have the Devil in reverse, which is beautiful because this is about freedom and release and regaining that control, right? It's essentially taking back control over addiction, over the stories that we tell ourselves, over materialism, hedonism, all of these sorts of things. And if you look here, the devil has that person on strings. It's like a puppet, right? Similarly, look at these strings here, right? Very similar. So, I feel like that's the thing, like, we're freeing ourselves, but you have to make those difficult decisions and clean up your space by turning over those things that create overwhelm and chaos, turning them over to a higher power, following your intuition, releasing what needs to be released, and moving forward, right? Regaining that control. Beautiful blessing. I love that. I love that. Okay. So let me move this to the side. Let's take a look at the second quarter, April through June. Tell us about the theme of the second quarter of 2023, please. What do we need to know? Okay, thank you. That was weird, you guys. I don't really shuffle like that too much. I'm going to get all the cards out, you guys. I feel like it would be easier to just go through them in that way, one quarter at a time. So tell us about the challenges for the second quarter of 2023, please. The challenges of April through June 2023. What are the challenges? Thank you. And the blessings for the second quarter of 2023. No? Okay. What are the blessings for the second quarter of 2023, please? Blessings for the second quarter of 2023, April through June. What do we need to know? All right. Okay, let's get the tarot to clarify. Tell us more about the theme of the second quarter. Thank you. Tell us more about the challenge of the second quarter. Lord, that's way too many cards. Nice clear message, please. The challenge of the second quarter of 2023. Wow. Tell us more. Tell us more about the challenge. Okay, thank you. And the blessing, please. Oh, wow. Okay, 1 second, guys. Got to get a card here on the floor. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at the theme for the second quarter, right? This is April through June. Wow, we have milk and honey. This is the number 51. So for some, I feel like there's this getting a taste of the it's actually interesting because I'm like getting like the finer things, but that may not be like materialistic things, right? It literally is the things that nourish you, that fill you, that sustain you, right? I'm seeing this more as like spiritual things, emotional things, mental things, right? I'm not saying that it might not show up in the physical world, but that's not the energetic signature that I'm picking up on, really. It feels more to me like the second quarter could bring this theme of nourishing your spirit in ways that maybe you were unaware of or unexpected, type of thing, right? I just feel like there's an element here of gaining some form of nourishment to your soul, your spirit, your overall like well-being, right? And then I don't mean it, like, again, it just feels more like that mental and emotional spiritual type of health. Okay, we also have, yeah, look at this, new life. This is absolutely amazing after having that Fool card in the first quarter. This is the number 39, right? So it's interesting because, like I was saying, I feel like there's this nourishment of spirit, right? And this is blows my mind because we closed out the first quarter looking at the blessing of the higher power, right? Being able to follow that intuition, pairing with spirit or partnering with spirit and succeeding at whatever it is we do. We looked at a new beginning here, and here we have some fear coming up, right? But I feel like it takes us to, even, it's interesting because it's like fear of the unknown, right? But there's a feeling here of like spiritual nourishment, or sustainability or something like that helps to really bring forward these feelings of a new life. And I love this so much. I love it so much. What else do we have here? Okay, so we do have the 10 of Cups in the reverse, which is interesting. Based on the two cards that have come out, the 10 does indicate, so oftentimes we look at 10s as like completion of cycles, or moving forward, right? But if we reduce it even further, it comes back to 1, which is about a new beginning as well, or new opportunities. But the 10 of Cups in the reverse is more this energy of, essentially like that family, the broken dream, being unfulfilled, right? But this is the thing. I feel like the theme is we're moving away from that. We're experiencing something completely different than feeling unfulfilled. Right? Because here's the thing. Look at this beautiful bowl or cup almost that this elephant is sitting in. The elephant represents the removal of obstacles, right? And then there's that bowl and it's full of honey and milk, which is very nourishing. I'm sorry if that was blurry, you guys, I couldn't tell. And then we have here like that, the 10 of Cups, right? And I feel like I feel like it's going to feel different, right? Because it feels to me like we're moving out of this 10 of Cups in the reverse, right? Where there's like shattered dreams and this energy of like a broken family or not feeling fulfilled, right? Not finding the inner peace or that happiness. And we have this energy of this full cup of honey and milk, right? Which is, again, nourishing, sustaining, and then new life. So I feel like we're moving out of that feeling or out of that space and into one that does feel far, far more. I don't know. It just, I want to say, keep wanting to say fulfilling. Um, but it is about the newness. Like it feels like, again, that energy of like, I've never really experienced this before, right? I've never experienced, maybe that nourishment comes from being in a community, right? Um, so for the challenge for the second quarter, we have building blocks. This is the number 28. So yeah, that's the challenge, right? Because we're starting new, right? We're starting new experiences. Okay, we're moving away from these victim stories. We're freeing ourselves from the things that have had a hold over us, right, during the first quarter. And in the second quarter, there's this element of rebuilding, right, of foundational shifts or changes taking place and building upon those things. I feel like the building blocks that have already been laid have come from the past couple of years. I mean, that's really not giving full credit, right, because it does come from the entirety of your life. But I feel like this new life, right? These building blocks for some have been being put in place since like 2018, 2019, 2020, right? And so I feel like we're adding more on top of that, but I do feel like you got to think that that transition, right? From or rather the rebuilding process, if you will, I feel like is, it's a challenge, finding where all the pieces go, where they fit, if they fit. Are we going to use them? Are we not? Right? There's a lot that comes with that. Um, it's really interesting. What else do we have? Wow, yeah. We have death and rebirth in reverse, right? So what's fascinating is, again, I mean, you guys, the death card in the reverse is the fear of change, like holding on to things that are not working anymore, which, you know what I'm saying? Like, again, I feel like that's part of what we have addressed at the beginning of the year during the first quarter, right? Or could address during the first quarter, is really seeing what's not working. What's not working is us carrying the load all by our lonesome. What's not working is us not having the support we need. What's not working is us telling ourselves the same stories over and over again, letting them control our life and preventing us from growing and expanding and succeeding in ways that we can and are capable of, but just don't believe, right? I just feel like the death and rebirth showing up here, what's challenging is rebuilding, is accepting the change, moving through or pushing past the fear of change that comes with rebuilding. I mean, even if we put it in simplistic terms, you know what I'm saying, in the sense of like, if we put it into reference of like a house, right? If you're living in a home and you're like, okay, we're gonna tear it down to the foundation, right? We're gonna live in a trailer until we finish this. Like, that's scary shit. That's scary shit, because if you don't get it done, like, or something happens, like, you don't have a freaking house, right? You don't have the support, the structure, none of it. That's scary. Similarly, when you strip away all of these things from who you are and the character that you have created, the identity that you've built, when you strip that down to no structure, it's like, well, what happens if I don't figure, what happens if I just let go of everything and then I have nothing and then I don't know anything and I don't build anything, then what? Right? There are lots of fears that show up with taking things down to the foundation and building upon something completely new. I mean, and that's what this is, because let's be honest, like, so first of all, we have the number 28 here, which reduces to 10, which is, again, right? It's starting over, moving forward, right? Like, completing cycles. Like, this is big. So for blessings in the second quarter, we have round and round, which I love this here, because this round and round is essentially, I mean, to me, it feels like getting off the merry-go-round, right? Like, from a blessing perspective, it's like we're not going to keep experiencing the same story over and over again. We are, declaring, if you will, that we no longer accept this way of living, this way of being, right? Reliving those cyclic things over and over and over again. It's like, no, I'm done. Thanks. Bye. Right? Let's see. I want to read, I'm going to read the prosperity message for this card. You guys, I don't know why I keep feeling like there must be something in here for somebody, right? Maybe it's me. Shoot, I don't know. Okay, so the prosperity message, right? Because we are, again, looking at a blessing. It says here, oh, fascinating. Okay, sorry about the glare, guys. There's not a whole lot I can do. If you're in a scenario that appears to be an echo of something that's already happened in the past in your work life, it's because you're being invited to see what you couldn't see before. So apply this to any area of your life, you guys. I'm just pausing for a moment just to say, like, apply this to any area of your life. It doesn't necessarily have to apply to work, and I wouldn't contain it to that small box. Okay. Okay, but it says, I'm going to start again. If you're in a scenario that appears to be an echo of something that's already happened in the past, it is because you're being invited to see what you couldn't see before. This is a perfect time for you to look at the deeper motives you have and your attraction to the opportunities and people who have entered your life to be a part of your journey to prosperity. Who helps you navigate? Who sabotages you? Who supports you? What are the familiar signs and your responses to them when you find yourself in a repeat of a pattern of the past? It's a good time to get a coach or mentor who can help you see what you can't on your own. Repeat what works, not what doesn't. Then you will free yourself from the old cycles and cease going round and round. Isn't that absolutely amazing, right? Because it's very similar to what we've already been discussing for the second quarter. And it's fascinating because we literally have said, who helps you navigate, who sabotages you, right? What are the things that bring you that support, right? Or make you feel supported. And not only that, right? But being familiar or recognizing when you're in those patterns or when you're doing those things, right? Taking responsibility and seeing them and acknowledging them and allowing yourself to be freed from them, right? Which is interesting because that is very much what that devil represents, right? Freedom, freeing yourself from those things is in addition to that death and rebirth, right? That's a freedom as well. Letting the old ways do what they're going to do, die, and moving forward. So that's a beautiful blessing and a beautiful opportunity. We also have here peace. Wow, this is fantastic. This is the number 23, right? So the second quarter could bring the blessing of peace. And I do feel like this is like an internal peace. I don't know that you will necessarily experience peace in the collective physical realm, right? Like, so what I mean by that is like on a global scale, right? Maybe we see bits and pieces of it here and there, but I don't feel like it's going to be like a global piece. I feel like this is more going to be affecting us on the individual scale, but collectively, right? So we're all likely to experience this sort of blessing or have the opportunity, at least, to experience peace, right? And I do feel like, again, this is an internal peace, right? This to me, there's like that egg here, right? And I don't know if you can see like the oracle's face there, but I'm very much seeing this as like essentially having this kind of harder external shell where that external world cannot impact you in an internal way the same way it could before, right? So being able to maintain or hold your peace regardless of what's taking place around you is, and I feel like that's part of the blessing. And I feel like this may be something that we're leaving behind, right? A cycle that we're trying to step out of is allowing other people or external circumstances or situations to pull us out of that peace, right? We also have here loyal heart. So this is a beautiful blessing, right? Because this is essentially saying that, I mean, the blessing is, I feel for some, you are literally finding that community, right? Like I'm getting that with this loyal heart here. This is the number 35, right? But I feel like for some, that community is coming in, those loyal hearts are coming in. That is the blessing. Maybe you find peace in that. Um, right? Maybe you follow that intuition and, find yourself addressing the things that need to be addressed so that you can welcome in these loyal hearts into your experience, right? Um, I also feel like part of the blessing is, because there was that question that we had, like, who's supporting you, who's sabotaging you, right? I feel like part of the blessing is being able to see who's who, right? And I want to lovingly say that as painful as it can be, being able to see who's sabotaging you is a blessing, right? Because God forbid that you would, have this person involved in your experience, and, maybe now it's just, that person needing to be exposed in your life, and that's just it, and you lose, a friend or a partner or something like that. But what if it was further down the line when this person is involved with perhaps, children, your family, your, whole experience? Like, then what? Then what kind of pain or types of things could be caused at that point, right? So it is a blessing for these things to come out. From the tarot, we have the Ace of Wands in the reverse. And I feel like this is really interesting because, again, I feel like there are those who are sabotaging you and those who are supporting you. And there is this element with this Ace of Wands in reverse of that, like lack of energy, lack of creativity, lack of passion, right? And again, like I feel like these people, part of the blessing is being able to see that in others, but also being able to see it for yourself and in your own situation. Like, where is there no passion? Where is there no energy? Where is there no fire? Where is there no creativity? Where are these things? Like, are these things that you need to keep experiencing in your life, or are they things that need to be healed, need to be worked at, right? Effort needs to be put in so that there is energy put back into these things, right? Maybe these are creative projects or ideas that you've had to create something new, maybe a business, maybe, I don't know what that looks like for you, but it feels like maybe it's like these blessings could be coming in to help bring life back into those things, right? Yeah, we also have the Magician here, which is interesting because the Ace is a 1 and the Magician is also a 1. So again, a new beginning. I feel, you guys, the second quarter could be a new beginning for a lot of people. It may look very different for everyone, but feel like a new beginning nonetheless. And I also feel like that second quarter could bring in, though, again, those creative things, because that Magician is somebody who is creative, who is creating their experience, their reality, right? Right? They are putting that creative force behind what they're doing. So again, like, I feel like that's the blessing, is finding that, getting it back, right? Because we do have that lack of first coming out with the Ace of Wands, and then the addition of with the Magician. So it's literally like, I feel like this is what we're replacing, right? I feel like this is a cycle we're ending. The one where we feel like we have no energy, nowhere to go, no nothing, right? Super, super interesting. All right, guys, so I am going to go to a part 2 of this video for the third and fourth quarter. I just find it will be easier that way and probably less daunting to look at a reading that's 44-ish minutes versus maybe like an hour and 30 minutes or something. So please do join me for part 2 if you're curious about the third quarter and fourth quarters of the year with their themes, challenges, and blessings. If not, thank you so much for joining me here today. I have truly enjoyed this reading. It's been a pleasure. I pray that your 2023 is full of amazing expansion, blessings, growth, and opportunities for you to experience the magnificence of who you truly are. If you found something in this reading resonated for you, please do the YouTube things by liking, sharing, or smashing that subscribe button. It really does help the channel to grow, and I truly am so very grateful for that. I hope to see you in part 2, but if not, take care of your beautiful soul, and bye for now.